Wriggles clear. Might just get the chip, and he does. He's scored. Oh, what a great goal! He's done it.
I thought you'd have a Welsh flag in the background, you two.
That's tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, mate.
That's tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, come on. Well, call me old-fashioned, but when you were in the World Cup in 74 and 78, I was rooting for Scotland, B. We weren't there. Is that
But
does that show a weakness or a weak side to me?
This is the thing. This is the thing. We get this all the time, and it's. I mean, you're a football man, so you know it's football. It's like you wouldn't get Man United supporters wanting Liverpool to win the Champions League. You wouldn't want. There's rivalries, and it's football, and it's like England's ours.
I don't know really. I suppose supporting Oldham, I have a different view of like a Champions League rivalry. The teams I follow kind of spiral out from round here. Like if Rochdale, who are our local team, if you like, were playing Spurs, I'd want Rochdale. Just how I'm wired up, I guess. But I get it. I get it.
But I think at a smaller level, and that's no disrespect to Oldham, but it's like with Clydebank, where recently there've been teams from our level that have been doing well in the Scottish Cup, and even though at our level we probably quite hate them because they're really successful at our level and teams are pumping money in and things like that, but you still want to see them do well against the bigger teams. But if it came to I guess when we were younger, Tom, Partick Thistle were maybe the team that we disliked the most, and you wouldn't want them to win anything unless it benefited you. As I said this on Twitter the other day, that there's only once that I've wanted England to win, and that was Euro '96, the Holland game. Yeah, and you scored 4 goals against them, and then still managed to break our hearts.
Yeah, because we conceded, didn't we, later on? And that knocked you out. Yeah, that was rough, that. I remember Shearer pointed that out in a post-match interview, which I thought was a bit rough in pointing that out, because he must have been friends with Colin Hendry, because they both played for Blackburn, didn't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
Anyway,
yes.
So Simon, I don't believe we've met before, have we? Or have we?
Not yet. No. Tonight's the night. So hello.
Hello.
So Simon started off with the podcast as well. So he would sort of jump in and jump out as he was free, and then that got less frequent as time went on. But hopefully he's we're going to do the threesome again. All right. Going forward. So it's like he's one of the original band members.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we're getting you in, Graham, just to make up the numbers.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm used to that.
Yeah.
So, who's your team, Simon?
So am I. Celtic. I'm Celtic. Yeah, so my rival's always been Rangers, obviously, since a year dot. When I was born, there was an Old Firm game on. So I was born in the middle of the Scottish Cup final on the 5th of May, 1973. So, yeah, it's been a rivalry since birth.
That's good. It's we used to get the Scottish Cup final goals highlights in the 70s when I was a kid watching Grandstand or World of Sport, watching the Cup final day. It literally always did seem to be between Celtic and Rangers. I guess I should look that up. I remember one year, which might have been that year, 73, when someone scored when I think it was a Celtic goal when someone headed it and it hit both posts and someone tapped it in.
Yeah, I think it was the
Alex Miller.
Goal, wasn't it?
Forsyth, was it?
Yeah.
What year was that? Sorry.
73. That'd be 73. That's the one I was born in.
Oh right, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah, he nearly missed it, didn't he?
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, apparently he was wearing long studs. He had the big long aluminium studs because it was so muddy. And he had not been wearing them, he would have fresh aired it and missed. So there we go.
I used to be fascinated by Celtic's numbers on the shorts. They were huge, weren't they?
Because they were, the idea was you never break the hoops. So the top was sacrosanct and you couldn't put a number or anything on it. And then they played European games and European rules where you had to have a number on your back. So they used to put a white square on the back so the hoops would be touched. But all that's now gone as well. But was a great thing. I think when they won 8 titles in a row, and I think every single player wore 8 in their shorts when they came out in the late 70s as well. So I love these wee touches.
Yeah. That's a nice, interesting touch.
Yeah.
So if we're okay, we'll just get. Have you managed to have a wee read through this at all, Graham?
Yeah, I had a quick read through. I definitely would have had this version back in the day.
Right.
I was this run when that was my first World Cup, 74. I was right into it at this point. I would have been 10.
Yeah.
So I was very inspired. I was that little bit of a random story I told you about what caught my attention was when it was doing a run through of the games, and I distinctly remember what there was only 16 teams in 74, was there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And what they used to do is obviously it was our summer. They used to replay the highlights of the games the following morning. So say BBC had shown the game live. The highlights were on at 10:30 on the following morning on the other channel, so IT Granada in my case. And I distinctly remember the Italy v Argentina game. I don't remember the final score. I think did someone win 3-0 in that game? I can't remember. But Ruben Ayala caught my eye for Argentina, had the long black hair and a headband. And I remember running about the lounge in my parents' house with my sister's black cardigan over my head and a headband on, keeping it in place. And I scored a goal. I drew the curtains as I was watching the highlights because it was a lovely sunny morning. And I drew the curtains, which was like from floor to ceiling. We had these brand spanking brown curtains. I can remember them. I can remember the feel of them now. They were like a silky soccer net. So they came from floor to ceiling, these curtains. And I remember scoring a goal with this little white ball, like pretending I was Ruben Ayala. And I went to swing on the netting, like on the curtains, and I pulled the whole curtain rail down. And when my mum came back from the shops, there was just a pile of rubble in the middle of the lane where I pulled the curtain rail. Bits of like the wood that it was nailed to the wall with, and we had to repair it, do a patch job before my dad came home from work because I would have obviously got a massive bollocking if I would have pulled the curtains down. And we had to get a curtain rail from Oldham Market the following morning without my dad knowing about it, which I'd never thought about that since I did it, but just looking through that magazine just reminded me of like when I was pretending to be Ruben Ayala. That name really stuck in my mind. And did his son go on to play for somebody about 20 years later for somebody in Europe, or maybe for Argentina? I'm sure his son popped up.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the name seems, whether I'm thinking of Ruben Ayala, but the name sort of seems a bit more recent as well, so you could well be right with that.
He could well have had a son called Ruben Ayala. I think Tom's beavering away there trying to put me out of my misery.
See, I love what you said there, Graham, about how you had to get the curtain rail fixing that without your dad. No, the truth is, I bet your dad knew. I mean, this is the sort of thing, the parents know exactly what's going on. They just decide sometimes to let things, for the sake of, a wee bit of peace, just letting it go and letting the mum deal with it this time.
Yeah.
It's a great visual image though, isn't it? It's a great story. I'm gonna take that at some point. Thanks, Graham. I'm having that.
See, while we're on World Cup stories, so 82 was my World Cup story. So I've got 3 brothers and a sister, and we were watching, and we were on the family settee, and it was a spring thing, settee, and Dave Neary hit that 25-yarder, it hit the back of the net. We all jumped up together, and then we all landed together, and it just heard the spring went bang. And the thing is, my dad had the amount of times my dad had to get a pair of pliers out and get the tension right onto that, put the spring in, and he'd hurt himself. So his face just dropped, and it was just like from total celebration to quiet, and we're all just looking at each other going, "Oh no!"
What have you done?
Tom, did you get an answer?
Well, the Wikipedia page doesn't suggest that he's got a relative that played football.
Ooh, right. Okay.
On a similar kind of vein, my World Cup story was, it must have been 82. I'm thinking it's 78, but it must have been 82. And there's a picture, we were on holiday in Cornwall when the World Cup was on. And I've got the Scotland 78 strip on. And my wee brother, Robin's got the Argentina strip on. I remember we were playing golf out in the back garden of this place. And seconds after the picture was taken, I clattered them in the head by swinging it while up and knocked out my wee brother. So there you go, World Cup mishaps.
Yeah.
This is a whole different show.
Does he
Did you get
remember?
any blood? Did you get any blood on the Argentinian kit?
We needed the bandage.
Terry
We needed
Butcher.
bandage.
Yeah. What's your World Cup story, Tom?
Oh, well, mine's in the introduction to my book. We Made Them Angry, but it's genuinely my first footballing memory, and it's Archie Gemmell's goal against Holland. That sounds as sort of made up, you know what I mean? It's the most famous goal in Scottish football history, and it's my first footballing memory, but it's genuinely true. Argentina-France, I think we're playing the night before, and our TV went on the blink. So I'm 6 at this point. I was in my bed at the time, but the TV went in the blink, and so Scotland are playing Holland in the sort of vital final game the next night. So my dad had said they were going to my Uncle Pat's, my mum's brother, who stayed just down the back from us. My Uncle Pat wasn't into football, so he just got told that we were all coming down to watch this Scotland-Holland game. So I'm not into football at the time, and I'm sitting in the corner. My Aunt Anne's got me like toys to play with, kind of thing, and I'm sort of playing with the toys, and I hear this shout. My dad roars like, "Ah!" And as he goes back like that in the chair, the lamp, he hits the standard lamp, and it just crashes down just beside me. And I look around to see what's made my dad go so absolutely mental. And I watch as the replay Archie Gemmell's goal. That's genuinely my first football memory, is seeing Archie Gemmell, the replay Archie Gemmell scored.
Yeah.
This lamp almost crashing down on me. You know, my aunt came around to pick it up. And funnily enough, my cousin John, who was there because we were at a family funeral, and he mentioned that as well. I don't remember him being there, but he would have been about 14 or something. But he remembers that as well, as my dad knocking this lamp down in their house.
The World Cup dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why we stopped going. Isn't it?
That's the real reason.
Too much danger. Right, okay, listen, the 15th of June 1974 is the magazine we've looked at. So we're in the middle of the World Cup at the moment. So we're going to look at 1974 World Cup, which took place in West Germany between the 13th of June and 7th of July. And it was the first time it was a new trophy, and it was contested after the Jules Rimet was permanently awarded to Brazil. So we'll be looking at the 15th of June, which means it probably came out, maybe 3 days before this or something like that. So just before the World Cup actually kicked off. So let's have a look at the front cover, and let's make sure the technology works. And there we go. So the cover page of the magazine shows some football fans enjoying themselves with...
It's busy.
Yes.
It's a very busy cover.
Do you know,
it's a great cover.
My first thought was it was Argentina, but then I sort of thought, actually, it's probably from the 1970 World Cup, because also there's blue and white, fans with blue and white, and there's fans with red and white. And so when I looked, Argentina weren't at the 1970 World Cup, so Uruguay did play the Soviet Union. So, my wee bit of Quincy has sort of suggests that this is maybe Uruguay versus the Soviet Union. But yeah, it's very colourful. It's one of the things that we've probably touched on before is just the lack of, there's a lot of colour there, but there's no people with kits on. It's like people just wearing shirts, and some of them wearing nothing and T-shirts, whereas now you've got entire stands that are all the same colour with people wearing things. So
it's far more interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've got Rivellino of Brazil on it, Willie Morgan and Gerd Muller as well. And I was going to say about Willie Morgan, there's a sort of Roy Keane look to him, I think. A bit of a Roy Keane look to him there.
Yeah, looks quite chiselled, doesn't it?
Yeah. Anybody want to pick anything out from the front page there?
I'm loving the sort of handmade hat and the trumpet as well. I just love that in the middle. That's homemade fandom, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I was going to mention the trumpet because obviously that leads us on to England's brass band. And since Graham's obviously the man to talk to here, what's your thoughts on the English brass band?
Well, I've not really had any. But I'm quite oblivious to it. Have they been banned or something, or is they?
No, the brass band that play England games and go.
All right.
Yeah.
I probably haven't heard because I'm too busy shouting at the telly. But I know that did they try to temper it in cricket? Were they getting on people's nerves when they go watching England cricket? That kind of sticks out in my memory from last summer or being abroad, maybe the time, maybe a bit before COVID. But yeah, I think it adds to the atmosphere when you've got people in the audience with drums. Do you remember the Vuvu? They call Vuvuzelas?
Yeah, the Vuvuzela. Yeah, I was thinking that.
That just sounded like you're watching football, surrounded by a load of bees or wasps, didn't it? But I kind of got into it. I know my wife and my kids, when they were watching it, they found it annoying. There's just that noise in the background. But I kind of thought it added to it. Oldham were quite famous for having some guy with a drum just drumming along all the way through the game, which if you're not into that must be really annoying if you're nearby.
Yeah.
The Celtic not specialise in something, Simon? They must specialise in.
We do. We've got a whole section, and it's my kind of thing. My anti-modern football thing is football chants and organised singing. And I used to love it in the old days where a chant would start somewhere at the back of terracing, and Billy Connolly talks about it a lot. He talks about players like Davy Dodds, who played for Dundee United and Rangers, and he wasn't the most prepossessing of gentlemen. And behind Billy Connolly, somewhere he said I could never find the source of it. You would just hear Elefante. There's things like that. I like just chants and things that come out of nowhere. Organised singing, and there is the Green Brigade section there as well, and a safe standing area. And it does add a lot to the atmosphere, but I find that the whole focus is on that.
Yeah.
And that starts the singing that then goes around the stadium. I like the way it was just kind of random before, But my brother goes a lot more than me. He says that it saved the atmosphere. Sometimes it could be really, really quiet when Celtic weren't doing well. So I get it. But organised singing, I've never been a fan of. Organised brass bands, even less so.
Yeah.
I was at the Scottish Junior Cup final a few years back, and I went to the Hurlford end, and they had a guy who had a big bell, and he just rang the bell like all the way through the game. He just rang this bell.
Yeah. Well, but Man City used to have
Breaking Bad fan.
When Man City played at Main Road, they used to have a woman called an elderly woman called Helen who used to ring a bell to get the team going, and one of the chants would be Helen, ring your bell, just to get the vibe going in the crowd. But that's for older Man City fans, that's something they may remember.
Yeah. Well, the Man City, there was a period where they had blow up. It wasn't sound, but it was blow up bananas and fruit and things like that as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was like late 80s when they had the bananas. I can't remember how that came about, but it's a weird one. Well, one thing I was going to point out about the cover of it, Revellino, Willie Morgan and Gerd Muller, what I always thought as a kid, anybody who was tipped to be a star of the forthcoming World Cup, like the Revellino and maybe Willie Morgan in this case, they very rarely fulfil that promise. And it was always somebody else who'd emerge. I mean, obviously, Gerd Muller's on the front of there, and he stuck a few goals in 74. But Revellino, he'd be a very established Brazil player then, maybe slightly past his best at this point in 74.
He was the best, yeah.
And Willie Morgan, I'm not even sure, would Willie Morgan have played every game in 74? I guess you've got to move quickly if the results don't go your way. So you're potentially going to chop and change your team, aren't you? Quite sharply if things don't go your way in a group where you just played 3 games. But
I mean that World Cup, Graham, Kenny Dalglish was kind of tipped to be the sort of star of the Scotland team, and he wasn't. I think it was Davy Hay that was more the standout player for Scotland at that tournament, which eventually led to him being transferred from Celtic to Chelsea.
All right. Yeah. In 74?
Yeah.
David Dalglish, because in 74, I was going to say that, but Dennis Law was in the squad in 74.
Yeah, well, that would have been his last games, actually, Dennis Law. I think that was his last professional football match, was against Zaire, because obviously he was playing with Man City that season, and he'd finished up in that game against Manchester United.
Yeah, when he scored the back heel, and then went to West Germany, but then ended his career then.
Yes, I think that was his last professional game.
Yeah.
Did they actually?
Jimmy Johnston as well. Jimmy Johnston, but was he taken and not used?
He never got played. But I was wondering. I don't know if Dennis Law played the last game. I think he might have.
No, I think he only played Zaire. I think he only
Yeah.
played the Zaire game.
Yeah.
And who was that? Jimmy Johnston went but never played.
Yeah. Well. See, the thing about Jimmy Johnston, about this World Cup for Jimmy Johnston, there's as far as I'm concerned, a misperception that Johnson was taken and not played as a punishment for his antics in Largs. I don't know if you know the story, Graham. So Jimmy Johnston, after a home international against Wales at Hampden, the Scotland team went back to Largs where they were staying, and Willie Ormond allowed them to go out on the Randan to another hotel, and they didn't get back to about midnight. So they went out drinking at midnight and then left in the early hours in the morning when it was daylight. And as they were walking across the shore, they found these wee fishing boats. And Jimmy Johnston got in one, and apparently Sandy Jardine kicked the boat out, and it had no oars in it. And the boats sort of drifted out to sea. I mean, the story is he was halfway to America, kind of thing.
The Coast Guard called.
Drifted out to sea, and I think Davy Hay and Eric Shadler had got in another boat to try and row out to get him. And that boat had holes in it, and they just sort of, and everybody just sort of stood by the shore and left them to go out there, and they got the local Coast Guard to go out and get them back in, and it was a big kind of carry. It was just a daft laugh, but it was a big kind of tabloid sort of sensation at the time, and it was all this kind of like, what a disgrace he's been in all this sort of drunken antics. Anyway, and they went out and they beat England on the Saturday in the home internationals 2-0, and Jimmy Johnston was giving it the V-signs to the press box afterwards, and the story was that he'd get taken to the '74 World Cup, and they didn't play him because of the SFA as a punishment. But actually, Jimmy Johnston never actually played in any of the qualifiers.
Right.
For that '74 World Cup, and he was actually in the Celtic reserves for a period, December '73 to April '74. He was actually in the Celtic reserves until he came back into the team late on. So it was actually, I think, a surprise inclusion that he was in the 22. And
very much fringe player. Yeah.
They tried to put him on in the last game against Yugoslavia late on, but the linesman flagged, but the referee, obviously a different sort of substitution system at the time, the linesman flagged, but the referee didn't notice him. And then there was, because the two goals were quite late on, then there was a goal scored, so the sort of tactics changed, and he sat back down. But so I think there's a misperception that Johnson was taken and not played as some sort of punishment for his antics, but I think that's not actually true.
Yeah, that's a good story. He was a great little player. The little I saw of him, obviously down in England, he was a great player.
Yeah.
But again, back to when I was born. I know this is the theme. when I was born, when apparently my mum said, "What does he look like?" to my dad, and my dad, obviously in the middle of the Scottish Cup final, said, "He looks like Jimmy Johnston."
Yeah. You would do, wouldn't you?
We should move on.
Nothing's changed there. Okay, so we've moved on to pages 2 and 3 here. So document how all the teams reached the finals with the group results and final standings over the 2 pages.
Yeah.
So we've got England with Poland and Wales. England famously only drawn 1-1 with Poland at Wembley in the final game. This was the one that Brian Clough, was that the one he called the goalkeeper a clown before the game?
Yeah,
and then he went on to have the game of his life, pretty much. Yeah, and it wasn't a high scoring group. Let's just have a wee look at that. So Wales 0, England 1, Wales 1, Wales 2, Poland 0, Poland 2, England 0, Poland 3, Wales 0, England 1, Poland. I mean, it's not high scoring at all.
No, it's not bad though, but that's impressive. Wales 2, Poland 0. That's an impressive result for Wales. In comparison, wasn't it? That's although they got rolled over in Poland, as did England. So quite interesting. But I noticed that some of the groups had 4 teams and some had 3. So the groups that had 4, did the top 2 go through then?
I think it was just the top 1 still that went through.
Oh right, was it? Right.
Yeah. So the example here is Group 6, which has got Northern Ireland. And Bulgaria, Portugal, Northern Ireland and Cyprus. Northern Ireland didn't fare well there. They finished third. They've only won 1 game, which was Cyprus at home, but they were famously beaten by Cyprus 1-0 away as well.
Right.
which would have been an absolutely horrendous result for them back then, but a huge result for Cyprus.
Yeah, if my knowledge of Cyprus, because we go there on holiday quite a bit, is in the qualifiers for 74, this would have been round about the time of the unrest in Cyprus when the Turks invaded. So it would have been quite a tricky time going there playing, I would have thought.
The war zone, yeah.
A nervy time, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Republic of Ireland.
Yeah.
Some of the players Republic of Ireland had in the 70s, they flattered to deceive, didn't they? They had some great players.
Brady and everything as well, yeah.
Yeah, Don Givens, and a couple of Celtic players play for Republic of Ireland over the years, I think.
Yeah, in the let's check 74 squad.
Yeah, I mean, certainly later on, you've got Paddy Bonner, you've got...
80s, certainly,
yeah,
Chris Morris, guys were all...
maybe I'm...
Mick McCarthy, players like that.
Yeah, so maybe a bit later than when players came through.
Tommy Coyne,
I mean, it's looking at this, so it's Russia era and France at the bottom, which is just, nowadays, it's strange to see France at the bottom of any group, isn't it? But... yeah, it's...
They qualified for 78 as well, France, didn't they? So they obviously turned it round in them 4 years between World Cups.
And here we go, Group 8, Scotland's group. So Scotland, Czechoslovakia and Denmark. Got off to a great start against Denmark, beating them twice. And then I think there was a period between, what was it, the first Czechoslovakia game, it was like a big period between it, was it?
Right.
Do you remember, Tom? Was it a year or something? Or
possibly, yeah.
So I think there was a big period between our second last game and the last game. But Scotland, played 4, won 3, 4-8 and against 3, and then Czechoslovakia after that. So, what we would give for that sort of form in a group. But then again, three teams in a group. I mean, you play 4 games. It's certainly different nowadays as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and even that as well, going into that last game, which you lost, you obviously still qualified, didn't you? So pressure was right off because of the previous 3 results.
Yeah. So moving on to pages 4 and 5, and Shoot assess the chances of the 16 finalists, concluding that Italy will be champions. On Scotland's chances, they say, despite a poor history in the World Cup, opponents will treat Scotland with a great deal of respect. They know that players like Billy Bremner and Kenny Dalglish have proved themselves in European Cup competitions. It's unfortunate that they're grouped with Brazil and Yugoslavia. They will go with their best wishes, and given the breaks, Scotland may well make a few teams blush. So generally throughout the magazine, there's a cautious optimism and positivity around Scotland from the people writing in the magazine and from the magazine itself. So,
if I remember rightly, were you the only team of the 16 not to lose a game?
We were unbeaten, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, there were several teams who were unbeaten who went into the next round and then lost, and get knocked out, But yeah, we did. But then England in '82 get knocked out without losing a game as well.
Yeah,
with the way the second round was at that time.
But they had that group of 3, didn't they?
Yeah, but we make a big deal out of that. Can we go back, Andy? Look at those pictures.
Which ones? These ones?
Aye, the pictures there. So East Germany. So that's a picture of. God, I can't even read the Magdeburg.
Yeah, Magdeburg.
Are they celebrating with Goonies on, Andy?
What's a goonie?
Have they got dressing gowns on?
Oh, right.
Yeah. It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's certainly something that's hooded. It looks hooded.
Yeah, because I think we spoke about this before. I think on Twitter, a lot of Dutch teams celebrated big wins with dressing gowns.
Right. I've never noticed that before.
They would all wear dressing gowns. So I'm thinking in that picture that they've all got sort of white towel and dressing gowns on.
Maybe.
Yeah. Look at the Argentinian star player, Ruben Ayala.
There he is. Yeah.
Impersonated by many a young lad from Oldham.
Yeah.
Responsible for pulling the curtains down.
Yeah. And just there, the picture there, we've got a clean-shaven Danny McGrain.
Oh yeah, that's quite rare, isn't it?
Danny
Isn't
McGrain
it?
would have been 23 in that picture.
Yeah, he was never young.
No.
Yeah, he really doesn't look early 20s in that picture.
But
just looking at the guy tipped star player for Australia, there was an Australian player. I don't know whether it's Peter Wilson or not. Did he get booked twice and stayed on the pitch?
Right.
at this competition?
Yeah, in '74, I reckon. I'm sure I've seen that, but a little bit of an anomaly for you. Maybe Tom can check out. But I'm sure he got 2 yellow cards and stayed on the pitch.
It definitely happened in 2006. I definitely remember that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in the '70s because it was did they have the coloured the red and yellow cards?
Yeah, this might be the first one. Yeah,
I think the refs hadn't. Well, this ref hadn't quite got to grips with it. That 2 yellows was 1 red. But I'll look that up after we go off air, and I'll come back to you on that. But I reckon somebody from Australia got 2 yellow cards.
Right.
Yeah, it was either Australia or New Zealand.
Yeah, you're right, Graham. Hang on a wee second. Well, okay. So it happened in 2006 with Australia.
All right.
With Graham Paul was the referee. It was a Croatian player in a game against Australia.
Right.
But
New Zealand weren't in this World Cup, were they? They're not on this.
No,
they were in 82.
Yeah, so I'm going to stick my neck out and say somebody for Australia during the '74 World Cup, which obviously would have been a group game because they didn't get out of the group. Got 2 yellows and stayed on, but I'll look that up. I'll try and chase the video where I saw it.
I'll check my back catalogue as well, see what I can find on that.
One of the best games of the tournament for me in this World Cup was Sweden-West Germany, which West Germany won 4-2 in a mud bath. It was a great game, 4-2, a great game. Star player Ralph Edstrom, do you remember him? With tall striker with black hair.
Yeah.
Big name player, but didn't do much in the '74 World Cup because he was tipped to do well. I can't see who the West German star player is. I presume it's Gerd Muller.
Gerd Muller, yeah.
Gerd Muller, yeah. Yugoslavia's Dragan Zajic.
Right.
And Zaire
is
Ndai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder where he is now. I wonder what he does now.
I wonder. You're still sticking with the jersey, looking for a free kick to kick away. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to launch it into the crowd.
I mean, the thing is, we've got star player for Italy is Dino Zoff. This is 1974, and he must be.
Big 82.
Yeah. He must be 32 or something like that. So
yeah, he was 40 when he won it in 82. So
yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah. The grey jumper.
Yeah. He was good though, wasn't he? He was good.
Yeah, he was great. Wonderful goalie.
Yeah, very. And they were very dour, Italy, in those days. They did, just played for a 0-0, didn't they, or a 1-1? No, artistry about them at all.
So here we are at the Billy Bremner, the captains. So it's Billy Bremner of Scotland, and they interview the skipper ahead of the tournament. Firstly, they look back at the recent victory over England and ask if that changes Billy's thoughts on Scotland's chances. Billy says that win, lose or draw the game against England, it hasn't changed his thoughts, although he does now think that others are more optimistic about Scotland's chances. There's talk of the power of the Scottish fans, and Billy believes they'll take between 20 and 30,000 to the games. There are a number of cliched responses, such as, we will take each match as it comes, is in there, and they must be the greatest crowd in the world, is in there as well. And on being asked if he'd be satisfied to get through to the second round, his reply was, no, I'll not be satisfied with anything but a win, and we're going to win. It's a World Cup or nothing, and it won't be nothing, that's for sure. That's fighting words from Billy, isn't it? Yeah. See, it's like Ali McLeod says something like that, and he's castigated for life, whereas Billy Bremner, it's like nobody remembers it. It's a little footnote in a Shoot magazine article.
Yeah.
But even back then, as I say, I pointed out there's cliches just throughout it, but you can't get a good answer off anybody these days.
No.
Yeah, it's so policed, isn't it? And there's so many media advisors around them. You don't get that honest kind of chat with them. You wouldn't sit down for half an hour with these guys now. So especially the captain. You know, without it being anodyne, unfortunately, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? It's, yeah.
That's
It
why these
kind of feels
magazines
like
are fab to look back on.
it's what? Sorry.
That's why these magazines are so fabulous to look back on, aren't they? Because you get a real sense of them here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like the World Cup, that WM74 logo.
Lovely.
WM, is that something to German, West German or something? WM.
Meyer is German or something.
Oh,
like that.
West Munchen. Would it be Munich? West Munich 74 or?
You know, Tom, get Googling.
Is it German for World Cup or something? Is it?
It could be. Yeah, the M could be for cup, couldn't it?
Yeah, World Cup in German.
Listen,
a quick Google and pretend to know.
Yeah, jumping to the current World Cup, have you noticed how on the TV graphics they put FWC now, like FIFA World Cup, and I just think it's like, you know, why not just call it? Why not just put WC World Cup? Everything's FWC. It's all branded.
Yeah,
because I've got Weltmeisterschaft.
Oh, that'll be it, won't it?
Yeah.
Weltmeisterschaft. I mean, I may be on a different site. This may be cut later on.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
So that'll be it. Yeah.
It's World Cup in German.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
See, lateral thinking, guys. Lateral thinking.
If we learn one thing from this podcast, it's Weltmeisterschaft.
Weltmeisterschaft.
It sounds a bit rude, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Let's move on.
In fact, let's.
Also, World Cup build-up doesn't help.
Yeah.
World Cup build-up.
Well, we're going to move on to an absolutely brilliant team photo here.
It's great, isn't it?
Super Scots, and it's all the Scottish squad in their blue tracksuits. And I'm assuming this is going to be at Largs, because it looks very Largsy in the background there.
Yeah.
And it looks sort of, you know, there's a certain chill to the photograph that suggests Largs as well, the west coast of Scotland. Anybody want to pick anything out from this?
Maybe a simple look.
Sorry.
Jimmy Johnson doesn't look happy, does he?
No, he's looking for a pair of oars, isn't he? for the nighttime entertainment.
There's
some players on there though. That's a good squad. That.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a few young players, a few young ones coming through. I say they're young players, but they still look. Gordon McQueen at the back there. I've got Joe Jordan in the middle, who, you know, Joe's went on to score at this World Cup and the next two subsequent ones as well. Tommy Hutchison up at the top. We've got
Dave A, Danny McGrain,
Dave Harvey.
Is that Buchan on there next to the middle row, next to Lorimer, Peter Lorimer?
Yeah.
Jim Hulton, he broke his leg around then, did he, Jim Hulton?
Right.
For playing for United. I don't know if after this World Cup, but around the mid-70s when he broke his leg and never recovered, really.
I mean, there's Willie Morgan at the front. I said earlier on he looked like Roy Keane. I do also think there's a bit of the Gallagher about him. You know, the Gallagher brothers. He's got that sort of look to him as well. You know, it
looks like Alex Harvey there, doesn't he? Is it Alex Harvey? The sensational Alex Harvey band.
Sensational, yeah.
But,
a great look.
Yeah, look at Billy Bremner's trainers. Look at them. Proper no Gallagher job, them trainers, aren't they? Brown suede. Yeah. Adidas, probably.
One of the tassels on them instead of laces, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
it's a good shot.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's like this. It doesn't seem as though they've really put that great deal of effort into it. It's like, right, guys, just make sure you turn up here with the new tracksuits on.
Yeah.
What about what we wear in our shoes? Just whatever you're wearing at the time's fine with that.
Yeah.
And
it does distract. It's great, isn't
it? Kenny's got red socks on. I think there's another couple I can see in the bottom right as well. But yeah, it's. I love photographs like this. You know, what sort of bench are we looking at? Probably something from the hotel or something like that they've just brought out.
Yeah. It was something from under the window in the hotel, that one, the bench.
A Shea Long or something like that.
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah. Okay, let's move on to pages 12 and 13. This is World Cup crosstalk, and it's do a head-to-head interview with the Yugoslavia manager Miljan Miljanic and Brazil boss Mario Zagallo. It's quite a forthright interview with a lot of emphasis being played on the potential for a more physical competition because it's based in Europe. There's criticism of Sir Stanley Rouse and his potential re-election to the presidency of FIFA, which I don't think he got. That was when Havelange got him, was it? Yeah. The consensus of opinion is that a European team will win, only if Brazil don't win, of course. And on Scotland's chances, Zagallo was impressed when they played Scotland a couple of years previously, but says they are so unpredictable. And he says, on a good day, they can beat anyone. On a bad day, they could even lose to Zaire. He knows his football. Milanic says, we will look upon them as one of the strongest possible opponents and treat them with great caution. There's another cliched response I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Zagallo goes for a Brazil-Italy final, and Milanic predicts Yugoslavia versus Brazil. So there's a bit of Sven-Goran Eriksson. I'm just going to keep pointing out who people look like. Okay, I'm going to go Sven-Goran Eriksson.
Yeah, I thought it was in when you turned the page. Yeah.
Zagallo was Zagallo in what team would he have been in? Was he in the 58 team or the 62 team? What was his? Because he was in charge for about 4 World Cups or something. Was he not, Zagallo?
Was he? So I'd say going off that, he'd finished playing 10 years maybe. So that'd take him 62 maybe.
Yeah.
His last World Cup.
62 World Cup, yeah. 60. He's still alive.
So would they have been at the 58? Was the one in Sweden, was it? Was that the one?
Yeah.
Pele's first World Cup? So
I'm sure he was teammates with Pele. I'm sure he was. He was a forward as well.
Yeah, 58 and 62. He was part of the squad.
Yeah, so was he boss in 66, 70, 74 and 78?
He played 58 64 for Brazil. And then managed several spells as manager of Brazil. Yeah, 70, 74. 67, 68, then 70, 74.
Right.
His first 2 spells.
Yeah. And he was back as caretaker in 2002, and he was manager in 1994 to 98.
Yeah.
So he's Mr. Brazil football, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yes.
The Professor. That's what he was called. Yeah, there's a great book on him actually. I'm pretty sure he features in these sorts of books. I've got a whole Brazilian themed thing somewhere. But yeah. He was some guy. Some guy still there.
Yeah.
They'll probably have him back after this World Cup if they don't win.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to pages 14 and 15. And I found this really interesting. It's when to look and listen in, a guide to TV and radio coverage of the World Cup. So, short look at the coverage of ITV and BBC for the upcoming World Cup. And for ITV, Brian Moore will host their coverage along with guests including Malcolm Allison, Pat Crerand, Brian Clough, Derek Dougan, Jack Charlton, Bobby Moncur, Terry Mancini and Ron Greenwood.
This is the World Cup is sort of credited with sort of changing the sort of the presentation on television,
right?
Because they did all these panels with these obviously opinionated ex-players like Derek Dougan and Brian Clough and Malcolm Allison. So I think this was the first time they really went for it.
Yeah, that's an interesting picture there. Two football kind of groundbreakers, Malcolm Allison and Brian Clough, and then Derek Dougan and Jack Charlton, two kind of quite up and down, straightforward players. Quite an interesting group of people. That and then Bobby Moncur as well. Did you say getting in on the action?
Yeah. So
Terry Mancini, Republic of Ireland international, if memory serves.
Yeah.
It's Arthur Montford there.
There's Arthur. Yeah.
Gerald Sinstadt looking nothing like what I picture Gerald Sinstadt is looking like.
We had him as our local commentator on Granada TV on Sunday afternoons. He looked like that all the time.
Right.
Yeah, quite interesting looking. And Jerry Harrison.
Yeah.
I always liked Hugh Johns in the middle at the bottom. I was a big fan of his commentary style.
Right.
Great. He always did the Midlands down in England. I don't know if that came across in Scotland, but he'd always do like Birmingham and Stoke, Leicester, teams that underachieved. But he had a great maybe words. The Leicester used to have a player called John Samuels, and he scored an header once. And I remember him saying, "Salmons leaps at the back post like the great fish."
You've been waiting for that for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the ITV programmes showing the coverage each day of the tournament, and there's sometimes there's actually a couple of games shown on the one day. Further highlights and World Cup scene discussion shows are shown throughout as well. So there's a lot of coverage there.
Yeah.
Just what you were talking about earlier on, Graham, there at 10:25 to 12 noon, recording of one of yesterday's games.
Yeah.
On a regular basis through that World Cup.
Yeah.
One of these is going to be the cause of that incident, isn't it?
It will be. It was definitely the Italy-Argentina game, which was on the 19th of June. So on the 20th, it would have been replayed the following morning. That's when I would have pulled the curtains down, 20th of June, 1974.
Brilliant.
Let's get that date. Yeah.
So it was midweek. I'm pretty sure it would have been midweek because my dad wasn't there. And I remember we had to get it all moved and sorted out before he came home. But yeah, there's half as many teams in this World Cup as there is nowadays. It's quite amazing that the world's a different place, isn't it, from when this World Cup was on?
Yeah, definitely.
You have to and there'd only be 3 channels in these days as well. No Channel 4 in these days. So for it to take over would be quite a big thing because, people like my mum and my grandma who weren't football fans, they got annoyed that the football was on all the time. I remember, hearing my grandma moaning all the time because we used to spend a lot of time there in school holidays moaning that football was on again, it's nothing compared to now. 4 games a day, it's everyone says it every day.
June the 15th, you get 2 games back to back, which has been unheard of in those days. 3:45 to 8 p.m.
Yeah, both exclusively live on ITV as well.
Yeah.
So,
here's a question for you, Graham. Would your mum and your grandmum have been tennis fans?
Yeah, definitely. Both very big Virginia Wade fans. Very British or English kind of. Like a Queen kind of lookalike. But yeah, so it would clash with Wimbledon, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because we'll see when we go into the BBC one, the Wimbledon is in amongst it as well. So it's like giving it all the sport that they're going. So they're probably getting a bit annoyed that there's only going to be one TV in the house, I'm assuming. So that
Well, I think we might have had a colour for the World Cup. Actually, I think we've had splashed out. We've got a colour telly for the World Cup.
Brilliant.
Don't know. You can afford curtains and a colour TV. I don't know. Okay, so we'll have a look at the BBC. So David Coleman heads the BBC commentary team with responsibility for Scotland and Brazil games, it says. Archie Macpherson is on hand to provide the comms for viewers in Scotland, a phrase that we are very aware of coming from Scotland. Other commentators include Barry Davies, John Motson and Alan Weeks. Jimmy Hill heads the experts panel in the studio along with the likes of Jock Stein, Don Revie, Bill Shankly, Bobby Charlton, Laurie McMenemy, Frank McClintock and Bob Wilson. I mean, the ITV had a good setup, but that's some of the names there as well. So
heavy,
that's so that'd be Don Revie before he was England manager. He would have got the England gig shortly after this World Cup.
Leeds,
Yeah, he'd be at Leeds at this point, wouldn't he? And Brian Clough, who was on the other channel, would have been at Derby at the time.
Yeah.
And of course, Jock Stein was then to go to Leeds for 44 days as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And Laura McMenemy would he have won the FA Cup with Southampton at that point?
75.
No, that was after, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 75, I think.
76.
Was it 76? Right.
76. Yeah, Southampton won it. And Bob Wilson, who went on to do Football Focus. Finished, didn't he? And Jimmy Hill jumped channels around this time. He was ITV, BBC, if I remember rightly.
Right.
And Bill Shanklin's a couple of Scottish, Frank McClintock, 3 Scottish representatives, or Bob Wilson, 4 Scottish players or managers there.
Yeah.
Representation, that's good.
And it says, you get the occasional showbiz star popping in as well, such as Eric Morecambe and Mike Yarwood. So just to add a little bit of fun to, I mean, Eric Morecambe, yeah. I remember enjoying Mike Yarwood when I was a wee boy when he came on, but I think maybe it was just because there wasn't anything else on like that, impressionist. So there we go. I'm not going to badmouth Mike Yarwood, even though it sounds like I just did.
Exactly.
So here's the TV listings again. Not as much, I don't think, as ITV, but still plenty in there. And as you can see, the June the 26th Wimbledon's in there, June the 22nd Wimbledon. So it's in throughout as well. So all that's in there as well.
But you look at that, Scotland Brazil's live on both channels.
Yeah.
Right.
What?
So your mum would have been doing a dinger at that, Graham.
Yeah, they would have been happy about that. I don't remember watching it. I must have watched it, but I don't remember. I remember the Zaire game when you won 2-0, didn't you? And,
right.
There was that free kick, wasn't there, where someone beat the offside trap, and did somebody head it in?
Yeah.
Somebody floated it in, and somebody just ran in, beat the offside trap.
Yep.
Against Zaire, but he only won 2-0, I think, against Zaire.
Yeah.
Which
that was a undoing, because Brazil won 4-0 and Yugoslavia beat them 9-0.
Yeah. Did Joe Jordan score in 3 World Cups?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
that's some going. That
isn't it?
That's a great record to have. Yeah, it's
still the only Scot to have done that.
Yeah. I mean, that just takes some doing that, doesn't it? I mean, has an English player ever done that?
You can see off the back.
22 in 2002. Beckham scored in 2002, 2006, but not. Oh, and 98 as well. So yeah, Beckham did actually 3 World Cups. In the 74 World Cup, did you play? Oh, 78. You played Iran, didn't you?
Yeah.
And drew. That was 1-1, wasn't it? And you got beat 3-1 by
Peru.
Peru. Yeah, and then obviously nearly went through in the Dutch game, didn't you?
Yeah.
You won 3-2, but you had to win by 3 goals, didn't you? I think
that's right. Yeah.
Typical Scotland that we go on and winning the game that we probably least expected to win in.
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, I was shocked with that Peru game. I remember watching it distinctly as a kid, and you just expect Scotland, or any British team really, to beat Peru, purely because they didn't know anything about them, not based on any kind of football logic at all, but they had was called Kubilias, who was on fire, wasn't he?
The greatest midfielder Peru has ever produced, as he was described as. He was fab.
Yeah,
sure. Going back to the Zaire one though, the Zaire football top, the jersey is superb, isn't it?
Yeah, but was it green with a yellow V?
Yeah, they had the green home one, and they have the yellow away one. It's a brilliant strip. It's an absolutely brilliant strip. Leopard Zaire.
Yeah, and they had something written in big writing on the front, didn't they, if I remember rightly? Did they have Zaire written on the front?
Yeah, Zaire down the bottom, and leopards as part of with a leopard was part of the badge. Brilliant, right. Beautiful jersey.
With that's right. Leopards. I've got one here, big circle with the word leopards.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you get away with that?
It was Ethan Hawke put a picture up the other day, and it was an old picture of him on set from about 20 years ago. It was on Instagram, and he's wearing the jersey. He's wearing a Zaire 74 jersey.
Brilliant. That is a great kit. That.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? My wife and I had a couple of sports and fashion stores. We called them Zico, after obviously Zico. It was kind of Brazilian themed retro sports stuff, and we got the Zaire strips made as well, and I used to have them in the window. I had Peru, I had everything that gave Scottish people nightmare. I had those jerseys in the window.
Yeah. Well, that's a big collection, isn't it?
It's a great collection. I have many of them at home. This could be a long series.
So just at the bottom of the page as well, there's a little bit about the radio, and it says BBC radio coverage with full live coverage of all Scotland's games on Radio 2, and then brackets, or Radio 4 if you're in Scotland. Why? Why? I mean, really, with the final being covered live, so I think they just covered the Scotland games live and the final.
Right.
And every night, except Sundays, there will be a World Cup report live from West Germany at 10:02. I'm assuming that's probably because there would have been a news bulletin at 10.
Yeah.
The radio commentators include Brian Butler, Peter Jones, Alan Parry, and David Francie, a well-known name there, with Mike England on hand in West Germany to give his views. So yeah, again, few famous names there, few well-known names.
Yeah, so I do remember listening to the radio quite a lot for football games, in those days, and there was some great commentators, and so few of them as well, really, because not so many games to be on. I'm trying to think. In England, would we have had English commentators on the TV? Did you point out before? And we said Archie Macpherson would be commentating in Scotland on the BBC. That's interesting how they would deem that to be necessary, not to have a Scottish commentator on the feed that we received. It seems.
So it says Dave Coleman did the games, except Archie did it in Scotland. Yeah.
Right.
Very strange.
Yeah, I remember him commentating when you beat us 2-0 in the home internationals. Did we score 2 own goals in the game?
Which one?
Going into the '74 World Cup, you beat us 2-0 in the home internationals.
Yeah. I don't remember if they were on goals, but there was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we scored 2 own goals. Joe Mercer was our manager at the time, and I remember David Coleman commentating, and it was so final when like I said 2-0, and it just even just in his voice, it felt like there'd be no coming back, And in those days, as a 10-year-old, to score 2 own goals in a game, it's just like beyond embarrassing,
Yeah, own goals by Mike Pidgick and Colin Todd, yeah.
There you go. And in the game is we had one of the black and white balls, which we rarely used in British football.
Yeah.
With black sort of hexagons on it.
One of these ones.
Telstar,
one of them ones.
Was it Telstar they're called?
Yeah.
Is that a size 4? Or have you just got really big hands?
Like a huge goalkeeper's hands.
It was probably the World Cup ball. Scotland are probably using it because it was
get used to it. Yeah.
Getting used to it, yeah. And if I remember rightly, that would have been one of Alf Ramsey's last ever games, because surely we got rid of him before or during the World Cup '74 because we'd failed to qualify, and then Don Revie was manager. I can't have managed much longer after the '74 World Cup, if at all, I would guess.
I don't know. Okay, at this point, sorry, on you go.
That's when we came out, when Don Revie was the manager. That's when we came out with the Admiral kit with the white and blue trim, which was very, very slinky. I remember thinking as an 11-year-old kid at that point.
Yeah,
it's a great kit. It's a really great kit, isn't it? Admiral had some brilliant kits at the time. I mean, the Leeds United was the iconic one with the players' names on the back as well.
Oh, totally. And
wonderful.
The little tags on the socks with the numbers on.
And I can't remember. I think in 1974 World Cup, I don't know if it's a close-up picture anywhere, but I'm sure that the Scotland team and a lot of the teams had it was almost like a golf label on the socks.
Mm-hmm. I think it was a numbered tag. It was the same as Leeds had.
A numbered tag on the socks.
I saw one. I think Gordon McQueen maybe wearing it. But yeah, there is certainly a Scotland one. But that was something, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. It was Paul Trevelyan.
Paul Trevelyan, yeah.
They went and introduced that at Leeds, along with loads of other things, just as a sort of marketing.
With the names.
It worked.
Who was that? What's the name of that person?
Paul Trevelyan is an artist. You will have seen his work, but he was involved with Leeds, and as I say,
he did You Are the Ref. You don't know the drawings.
Oh yeah.
But he did. He introduced at Leeds the act to them. When they would come out and they'd line up and they would wave to the fans and turn round.
Yeah.
He introduced things like that. And the sock tags were apparently so that at the end of the game they could throw them into the crowd.
I see.
As well.
Right.
But he came up with loads and loads of things. He was he was the in the Guinness Book of Records for was it speed kissing or something like that as well. You know, it's one of these. It's just a finger in every single pie, things like that. But he's
that speed kissing?
Speed kissing. Yeah. I guess kissing loads of people really quickly.
Right. Yeah. I figured.
The clues.
He agreed to come on the podcast, didn't he? A while back.
Yeah, he's a big Spurs fan as well. And he's on Twitter. Right. He's on Twitter. But he's just he invented one of the golf grips or the a golf grip or a style of club or something like that as well.
All right.
There's loads of stuff. I've went through them in previous podcasts and that, and they're just sort of in the back of the head there. But I'll introduce you more to Paul Trevelyan stuff online. But he's an absolute legend there, man. Right. So let's jump out this for a minute and just talk about what's happening with yourself at the moment, Graham. Now, obviously, Inspirals are touring again.
Yeah, so there we go.
So let's have a wee chat about this. So how did this come about? What was the driver?
We haven't done anything since 2015, I think was the last time we played. And we've forever getting offers to reform, if you like, or do some concerts. And we were just kicking it around. We got offered some Happy Mondays gigs, which would have been to take place in spring next year. But we weren't too sure whether we wanted to do anything or even do some Happy Mondays gigs. We weren't sure, but we decided we'd pursue it about doing our own shows. And so I contacted SJM, who I'm very close to, a concert promoter, and they said, you could do that tour that's up there. There's 13 gigs. And as you can see, 4 of them, I think there might be 5 or 6 of them now sold out. So they're all varying sizes. Like the Manchester one's 2,000 people. The Glasgow one is, I'm sure you know, is 1,000. Sheffield's 1,000. And London's 2,000. So they're all selling well or sold out. So it's quite exciting. We've done a bit of rehearsals. We've obviously got a new drummer because Craig Gill, our original drummer, passed away in 2016. So we've got a new drummer, and it's exciting. It feels good. We've rehearsed about 4 or 5 times, and then we're going to get heavily into it in January. Get the match fitness up, but it feels really good.
So
I hope to see you all at some point at one of the gigs. Just let me know.
Yeah.
So I've got my tickets for Leeds because that's obviously local to me. So I'll definitely.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, these we'll talk about these as well coming up. Yeah. These focus ons that we did, which I absolutely love doing them.
Brilliant.
I'm going to get, I'm sure you're going to merch them, but I'm going to get them all printed out and put into a big frame, and I'm going to see if I can get all used to sign it as well.
Oh, of course,
and then I can get it put up on my wall. So I'll do that as well. But yeah, listen, for the people for the benefit of people listening to this, we put together some focus on style questionnaires for each of the band members, and did them on all different styles and different eras and things like that as well. And we had great, I was saying to Simon and Tom, with great feedback from everybody about where things should go and what, do this. And it was great to actually, because normally when I would do something like this, I have to think it all myself. And it was great that I was actually getting the amount of feedback for everybody that I was. That you were absolutely, we were all on the same sort of wavelength for it. But the other one as well, so that's Stephen Holt there, Manchester City, and then the two new boys to the
band. 2 new signings, It's funny with Kev, who's the new drummer. He's just not a football fan at all. But when you're doing anything nerdy football related and someone's not a football fan, it's just so difficult explaining some things which to the likes of us, or even Clint in the group, who's not really a football fan, but he kind of gets because he hears us talking about nerdy types of things like, away ends or football goalposts or the size of the netting and stuff like that. He hears about this just going on in the background. That Kev is just not a football fan at all. Just to explain even what focus-ons were, when you're thinking, God, didn't your old childhood revolve around wait for shoot to drop on the doormat on a Tuesday morning to jump to the focus-on to get the insight on whoever the player might be. But yeah, these are great. These, Andy, they're absolutely brilliant. They're brilliant. Great. But my wife makes cakes, so we've had some of the ones printed out on edible icing without the focus on bits, but just the picture of the player and the name.
Right.
To put on cakes that we'll bring some to the Leeds gig for you to have when you come to Leeds. Andy.
Brilliant.
But they are brilliant.
Yeah, we've got the England squad, which has not yet been unveiled yet as well, to do something with that, haven't we?
Oh, of course, I forgot about that. Yeah, we were working on that, weren't we? Yeah, brilliant.
So, but yeah, it was an absolute pleasure to do it. As I said to you, it's the sort of stuff I love getting my teeth into, so I just need an excuse to do things like this, so thank you for giving me that excuse.
Yeah. The questions are great, though, aren't they? Because, back in the 70s, you'd be... there wasn't Twitter, obviously, and things like that. And you'd just be getting to know something about a player who you'd just see on Match of the Day every, 2 or 3 months or something. You'd get to know what kind of music to listen to or who they'd most like to meet. And, in the mid-70s, the answer is quite often Rackle Welsh, the person they'd most like to meet, just proper cliche, funny answers,
I think part of the attraction to it is the format of it is a pretty consistent format. So if you're reading an article, you may not really, especially as a kid, you may not read a full article on something and pick up all the details. Yeah. Whereas if it's this, you can, hobbies, pint, most difficult opponent, many pints, things like that. You can go straight to it. Favourite food, steak and chips and things like that as well. Yeah. So I think the fact it's in that format makes it just easy to get the information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is brilliant, and it really good.
So you said, sorry. No, on you go.
As time went on, they changed the questions, didn't they? I've noticed in some of the ones you've been tweeting, the later ones, they have different kind of questions, trying to make them a bit more slinky. But I prefer these type of questions, from like the early to mid 70s. Just out of interest, who was the goalie that you used for Clint's picture? It looks quite an obscure one.
It was a Newcastle United goalkeeper from that went 60s. Let me.
Right, it don't matter if you haven't got it to hand, Andy. So it's just that somebody asked me the other day, and I didn't know. I knew some of the others. I knew that was Brian Robson, and I think was it Dennis Law for Jake.
Yeah. So his name's Brian Harvey of Newcastle United, okay. And it's that one was from 1960. So that photograph is a really old one from Charles Buchan's Football Monthly magazine. Right.
It's a real good one, cracking shot.
So that was that one there. Yeah, it goes well with his hairdo, doesn't it?
yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
What I was going to ask is just talk to us more about getting back together and how have the new guys sort of bought into it and things like that, or have you worked with them before?
No, Steve had worked with Kev before. Steve's had a separate band called the Rain Kings, and Kev drummed for them. Jake he lives around the corner from me, but he's kind of like in a lot of different bands at the moment. He's played with Miles Kane, Paul Weller, The Specials. He's currently playing with Jamie Webster at the moment. So he's kind of like a very much in-demand person to like to hire out. But we've got him on bass because Martin, our current bass player, just doesn't quite fancy it at the moment. So I'm sure he'll come back at some point, Martin, but he just doesn't feel in the right place to do it. So, but he said just crack on without me kind of thing. So we've had to get 2 new members, which it's a big thing. If it was a football team, it'd be 4 new players in turning out in for a game, and But at the end of the day, it's we're playing. This is the current version of the Inspiral Carpets, and we'll be playing all the hits, as you might say. So we're looking forward to it. When you got new people involved, it's kind of exciting, and new personalities to take on board. But we're looking forward to it.
So here's a question for Tom and Simon. Who's the Ipswich player that Graham was?
I reckon Arnold Muren.
Okay, Tom.
Oh, Russell Osman.
You only get one go at this, I'm afraid.
Russell Osman. I've looked closer. I'm on a small screen.
Well, I'll just say George Burley just to be different.
Okay, it's Alan Brazil.
Is it?
Yes.
No shin pads, I noticed.
I thought
it doesn't look like that.
I think I saw a message from your wife Karen mentioning about the short shorts in this, and I think she was quite impressed by those. So I think that's your Christmas present sorted out.
Yeah, I saw something come the other day from Adidas, and it felt slinky in the parcel. But I'll let you know on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
I'll let you know on Boxing Day the chafing's begun.